tell me how to breathe while I'm yearning for her sweet, sweet embrace. Our love will find a way. In the night she makes me sway.
Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. I don't remember where I first heard that. I wish I had, because it's my favourite way to look at life. A life that had made me ostracised. Not just from my own community, but my own family. People thought there was something wrong with me. Something very, very wrong with me. If this was 1692, I'd be called a witch and hung. But being that this is 1985, I was being sent away for troubled girls. The warning signs, as they were later illustrated to me, started at a young age. The first sign of trouble through the eyes of others was my interest in taxidermy. Most people may find a dead cat in the woods and think, I think that dead cat is fine right there in the woods where it is, being dead. I did not. I thought it might be nice to make the dead cat look alive. My mother didn't think that was a nice thing to do. For me or the cat. The second sign of trouble was the sleepwalking. Occasionally my mum would wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or get herself a glass of water, and she would find me standing somewhere. The location varied, but my disposition at the time of being found did not. I was asleep, eyes closed, head hung down, standing in one place. This creeped my mother out. One of her boyfriends, Cliff, was very creeped out. So creeped out that he started screaming and nearly had a heart attack when he went to grab a beer, and I was standing on the kitchen counter, asleep. Mum and Cliff did not continue their torrid affair after that. The third sign of trouble was the painting. First year of secondary school, I took an art class. One day, we had someone come in to pose for us to paint them. Not naked or anything. It was some model who did that sort of thing. Anyway, the class did as they were told and painted what they saw, which was this model. So did I. At least, I thought I did. To everyone else, my painting looked like I had drawn this woman on fire being held at the stake. I tried to tell them that I was painting what I saw. A woman being held against her will, confined to a life that has restricted her to be this object of desire while she burns alive inside. To me it made sense. It was honest. A real depiction of who she was and what she felt. To the rest of the class and the head teacher, it meant suspension for a week. At this point, my mother had enough of me. Not just me, but the whispers. The whispers around town that there was something off about her daughter. Her only daughter. In a town of white picket fences and praying to the white pearly gates somewhere up in the white prophetic clouds, I was a sore thumb for even the sorest of thumbs. She didn't know what to do. First year of school was about to end, but there was still 3 whole years of me being the weirdo, the outcast, the freaky girl who dressed a little darker than everyone else. The daughter of Cissy McLean, that's the one that really stung for her. Former head girl, former lacrosse captain, former rah-rah female who wanted nothing more than to bow down to the conventions of society. How had I come out of her womb? This was the question making the rounds around town. The timing of my wardrobe style was not great, that was obvious, even to me. Being that this is 1985, a time in which satanic panic had been sweeping the nation, heightened by the Night Stalker, a homicidal maniac who attributed his killings to the worshippings of Satan. He killed 12 people, maybe more, in the States, across the pond, yet the fear of Satan had spread all the way to lovely England. Splendid. In terms of ladies who love Lucifer, I fit that bill. Why don't you go screw Charles Manson, freak? This was what one of my classmates shouted at me once after I told her I thought her interpretation of Little Women was a bit hollow and surface level. I got in trouble, not the shouter. That was my second suspension. The head teacher of my school back then said that my attire wasn't appropriate and I should take the next day off to think about where I belong and what it means to be in a community. Accepting of others, I said. Isn't that what it means to be in a community? Better make it 2 days, the head teacher said. I had a deadpan timbre to my voice. It could come across as sarcastic, I get that, but I was just trying to be honest. And time again, honesty had no home in the great city of Bloomsbury. See, even that sounded sarcastic. I'm sorry. I had no problem with my hometown. Bloomsbury has long been associated with intellectual and academic pursuits. In the early 20th century, it was home to the Bloomsbury Group, a collective of writers, artists, and intellectuals including Virginia Woolf, John Maynard Keynes, and E.M. Forster. Not bad, right? It also had a solid foundation of lies and praying to the almighty man upstairs. I'm assuming that was God. Tough for me to pray to someone I hadn't met. This was another comment that didn't go well in town, seeing how it was said during a Bible study when I was 11. Father Karen scolded me and then gave me a spanking in front of the other children. 11 smacks for 11 years of disobedience. I couldn't help but wink at him when he finished. He didn't know whether to spank me again for that, but he felt odd and just told me to go home. When I walked out of school after my suspension first started, I suddenly felt the glorious pop of eggs hitting my rucksack. I stopped, turned. A group of girls were laughing by the car park as my rucksack dripped and I picked little pieces of shell from the back of my hair. They laughed. I took a deep breath and kept walking. There weren't a ton of options in the moment. There was at least 5 of them, including Patrick Bender, a boy who had mercilessly teased me all the way through school. One time, when I was bent over to sip from a water fountain, he pulled down my underwear in front of the entire hallway. I don't know where I got my logic and practicality from. My mother didn't have it. Dad was MIA. Maybe I got it from him, not that I care to find out. I don't really remember the guy. It had just been me and my mum as far back as I can remember, which was longer than most. They say your first memories can usually be dated back as far as 4 years old. I can remember things that happened when I was 2. Believe it or not, I can remember my first word. Space. It made for a cool story, initially. My first word being space. My mother had no idea how it happened, or where that word came from, or why, of all the words to say first, that was the one that took the cake. But it had. I was a beautiful, bright baby back then, crawling and talking ahead of schedule, making intricate finger paintings that looked like 3D art, refusing to use a bottle. That one might be odd. The jury is still out on my hatred for bottles. We can circle back. Or not, who cares? My point was that I had now become this dark, malignant sore thumb. With excellent grades, I may point out. When I got suspended first year of school, I was taking mostly upper-class men courses. My head of year said I'd have the pick of university litter if I kept my head in the books. Before I left my meeting, my head of year added that it might be nice if I wore a skirt sometime. For the boys, she said. I winked at her. She was confused. I was delighted. My mother had to figure out what I was going to do that summer. I was happy to work in a nursing care facility as I had done the previous several summers. I would help organise activities and do light office work. For a 13-year-old, I was making decent cash. Most girls my age weren't working, they were going to camp or making out. I was making friendships with people in their 80s and 90s. Mum thought that was bizarre. Why would you become friends with people who are going to die soon? Don't you want lifelong friends who you can grow old with? My mum had a point, kind of. Several of the patients at the facility had passed away since I met them, including Phyllis. Phyllis was my first friend. Not just there, anywhere. We played cards and she would tell me all about growing up during World War I and World War II. I couldn't understand why more people didn't take advantage of other people's memories. They were like books, but better. Phyllis had such great stories. I could see her memories as she spoke. But she was also sick, and sometimes she couldn't play cards for more than half an hour because she didn't feel well. I was very sad when Phyllis passed away. My mum didn't let me go to the funeral because she said that was the same day that they were opening a new ice cream shop in town, and Mum was dating the guy who opened up the shop. Yeah, that guy. The guy who caught me sleepwalking. Cliff. Boarding school wasn't an option either. As much as she wanted to get me out of her hair, she didn't have the money to send me off to some fancy private school for 3 years. She was at her wit's end and would tell me as much on a weekly basis. I'm at my wit's end with you, Bridget. That's what I would hear sometimes as I left for school, where I would get straight A's, by the way. Try to initiate intellectual conversations, engage in uncomfortable discourse about lessons of the day. None of that seemed to be buying me any currency around her. Not even the straight A's. All it did was make adults feel like I was being condescending, but I wasn't. I wanted to know why. When you're a child, you always ask why. The natural curiosity of childhood is infinite, and then you reach a certain age where it's finite. Very finite. Raising your hand or asking why is no longer cute, it's exhausting. I could feel the walls of my town closing in on me. That sense of claustrophobia when you feel people start looking at you. I was becoming exhausting. Mildred was a delight. She was 92 years old. She had 22 grandchildren. Her husband had been dead for 47 years. She had served as a nurse in both world wars. She'd lived in 6 different continents. She had an endless wealth of knowledge that was more vast and interesting than anything being taught in my school. Yet she was now spending her last days in a nursing home. As people passed her by, looking down at her, as if she was some sort of burden, I found that despicable. I had gotten to know her during my time at the care centre, and I found her delightful. She had off-colour jokes that she would always apologise for, and I couldn't get enough. But as with my other friends who had once called this place home, her best days were behind her. I had a heartbreaking suspicion that this might be our last conversation, so we sat in the courtyard and sipped coffee. She asked if there were any cute boys at my school who caught my eye. I said no. She said to make sure to keep an open heart. That's the only way to let love in. I didn't want her to see me cry, so I actually felt a sense of relief when Nurse Nancy told me that it was time for Mildred to get some rest. I hugged her, tightly. I could feel it right there in that moment. I knew that I would not see Mildred again. I had felt this before. I wish I didn't have that skill. What an awful skill to have. To know when people were going to pass away soon. I wished to heavens that people in my town kept praying for Mildred would live another day. Another week, another month, another year. But I knew that wasn't the case. I saved my tears for when I got to the bathroom. I tried to stifle them so nobody heard me. A childish lesson my mother had taught me. That nobody wants to hear a woman cry. When I walked out of the stall, there was an elderly woman in her wheelchair sitting there, looking up at me with a big smile. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked. "Yes, thank you," I said. "My name is Agatha," she told me. "Would you care to have some tea with me?" Her room was gorgeous, as if transported from another realm. A realm in which nursing care facilities had rooms that didn't feel monitored by the Grim Reaper. Agatha's room was on the top floor overlooking the courtyard with big bright windows and beautiful lush red carpeting. All these old women had such wonderful names, names that were no longer in fashion. Perhaps they'll come back into fashion. Most things in our culture tend to circle back. We're quite repetitive, aren't we? "I was saddened to hear you crying, my dear." If only my mother had said that to me. We had known each other for approximately 3 minutes, and I already felt closer to her than anyone in Bloomsbury. "Thank you, Agatha. How lovely of you to say that." Agatha sipped her tea by the window, her frail hands trembling ever so. "May I ask what happened, if you care to share?" Her tea was exquisite. I felt 5 years younger, which is odd when you're only 13. "Oh, I was just sad to say goodbye to my friend," I told her. "Oh dear. There are a lot of goodbyes around here, I'm afraid." "I know," I told her. My throat clumped. I could feel a wave of tears bubbling up, desperately trying to suppress them. Thank God Agatha spoke so I wouldn't have to. If I did, I think I would have started crying. "I've seen you around before, I believe. So nice of a young girl to spend so much time with the lovely women who live here. You rarely see that nowadays. People seem to only care for themselves. It's quite disheartening." I nodded, agreeing. "May I ask you, dear, do you have many friends in your school?" I shook my head gently. "Oh, that's okay. Sometimes you just need to find the right people, that's all. Not every place is for everyone, I'm afraid. Some places keep their arms crossed when you go to hug them. Other places keep their arms wide open. I should know. I have met many people in my time who have kept their arms crossed. I do not wish to waste my time with such people. Life, as you have seen, is too short to be wasted." This was the most relaxed I had felt in some time. Agatha's words were like an elixir. I could feel my guards dropping their armour. She seemed to know me beneath my skin. If it's all right, dear, I would like to invite you to a little get-together. My granddaughter runs it, and I think you'll get on with her quite well. You remind me of her." "That sounds wonderful," I told her. She took her sandpaper hands and wrote something down on a little notepad. She tore it off and handed it towards me. I noticed her delicate little rose tattooed onto her wrist. What a woman, I thought. Nearly 100 and she's got a tattoo. If I can be half this cool in 90 years, then I know I've made it. I read her note. Queenswood, Saturday, 9 p.m. Ask for Gaia. I thanked Agatha, more than once. She smiled, said how glad she was that we've been able to meet, how much she enjoyed my company. Then she told me she was feeling a bit tired and she was going to take a nap. I hugged her. She felt full of life. It was so refreshing to know that she had so much life inside of her. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. Queenswood, just south of Highgate Wood, about 3 miles north of Bloomsbury. An ancient woodland with a variety of walking trails and a rich ecosystem. I had a vague memory of walking around the trails once with my mother when I was very young. I was ecstatic for this meeting in the woods. I was counting the minutes at home. What to wear, I thought. Normally that was not a question I would care much to answer, but it did tonight. There was a slight chill of autumn stepping in for summer. Agatha had left the details vague. I loved that. The less I knew, the more excited I was. I told my mother I would be going out tonight. She didn't understand. You. Yes, me. There was a long pause as she sat in the living room smoking a cigarette. "Where?" she finally asked. I paused for a moment. I thought of lying, but that just created a sour taste in my mouth. For as different as me and my mother were, and we were quite different, the thought of lying to her just felt wrong, so I just told her. I met an elderly woman named Agatha at the nursing home. She invited me to her granddaughter's get-together in the woods. I have to be there at 9. I'll bring pepper spray. My mother took another long pause. She smiled and said, "Have fun, sweetheart." The wind was magnificent. It was igniting goosebumps all over my body. Leaving Bloomsbury behind for the comfort of the woods felt intoxicating. Why had I never explored this dark sanctuary before? Children were warned not to play in the woods at night. All that silly folklore about creatures and monsters. What a bunch of wimps. This was Mother Nature at her most naked. I got about 10 minutes into the woods before I first saw it. The fire. There was a group of women hanging around the blaze. As I got closer, I realised women was a generous term. They were young. My age, I think. And they were all dressed the same. Black hoods and long black trousers. Shocking to nobody who knew me, but this is what I wore all the time. For once, my fashion choices had paid off quite handsomely. I got off my bike and began to walk up to it closer, towards the flame. A hush washed over them, and they turned, waiting for me to speak, so I did. "Ask for Gaia?" I hoped my literal interpretation might incite a laugh, and then it did. The girls giggled. One of them, the one towards the back, lowered her black hood and walked over towards me, smiling. "You must be Bridget." "Yes," I said, smiling, blushing more accurately. She hugged me. The warmth of her hug matched the heat of the fire. She let go. "Agatha told us about you. We're so happy to meet you. My name's Diana. Let me introduce you to my friends." And she did, one by one. Morgan, Asian. Lilith, European. Viola, African. Circe, Spanish. The diversity of this group was award-worthy. Each hug matched the warmth of the previous. My body wasn't used to this much acceptance. My neurons were no doubt quite confused. Diana pointed towards the log near the fire, offering me a seat. I obliged and sat, as did everyone else. Agatha said you were quite compassionate. I try, I said, before giggling nervously. I had seen girls giggle nervously in movies, but never actually done it myself. Apparently it was a real emotion. Now I know. Do you go to school around here? I asked. They all looked at each other, smiling. Diana turned back towards me. This is our school. The reflection of the fire bounced off her eyes, as if her iris had melted into the blaze. We tried going to their schools, Morgan said. Prisons more like, Lilith said. They didn't accept us, Viola said. So we came here, Cersei said. Diana gently took my hand. I looked down at it. She had the same tattoo as Agatha, the soft tattoo on her wrist. She lifted up my chin. Our eyes locked. She was staring through my soul. Oh my God. Was this my version of a rom-com? Diana spoke and the dark clouds parted. The world you see beyond the woods? Built on artifice, greed, individualism. That is not our world. We believe in the world we were given, Mother Nature. She is the only world we care about. We are her and she is us. Do you believe that, Bridget? I nodded. Her smile grew. I believe you. If she kisses me, I might melt like a s'more. Instead, she spoke again as her smile faded. Do not let the monsters beyond the woods deceive you. They plan on destroying the world we were given through their greed, through their need to bleed her dry. You are not alone, Bridget. You are definitely not alone. Her smile came back. But you know that already. Otherwise you wouldn't be here, would you? I just nodded, helplessly, as if I was in a trance. I would have walked through fire in that moment if she asked me to. She didn't ask me to walk through fire. Instead, she asked, would you like to make a spell?
Two hearts in sync in this dance we call